This topic has come up somewhat recently for me, the idea of AI in therapy. And I'm sure you have your own opinion on this, so feel free to share them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. But I have some positive and negative ideas about it, and I'll just share them in a couple different parts. So first off, let me talk about my experience with therapy. I've gone to therapy at different points throughout my life. I've found it to be incredibly valuable. And I think there's one aspect of it that cannot be overstated or replaced, and that's the human element. I think that element is so important that typically I prefer to go see a therapist in person at an office. Now, I realize that for everyone's accessibility needs, that's not always possible. So we have the amazing technology of telehealth, where people can make a call or do a FaceTime, and they're able to have those needs met at their own schedule needs. So with that being said, one of the major pros I see with AI is the ability to deploy it at large. If we just take the example of something like ChatGPT, for the most part, it's free with some caveats. I'll cover that towards the end. But it's free and it's accessible from anyone's phone or computer. That's pretty revolutionary, right? Suddenly you have a tool that many different people can use, and if it is presented in a way that is designed specifically for therapy, not just having a general conversation about any topic, that can serve a lot of people. Now, whether or not this encourages more people to be isolated, that remains to be seen, and that is a real problem that we're already facing. The second thing I want to talk about is a bit of a slippery slope, and it's the fact that AI tends to be very encouraging to a fault. In therapy, there's a lot of context and nuance that has to be understood in order to know what the appropriate next step or response is. And because AI in its current form basically takes information and regurgitates it in a new or summarized way, I'm not sure it has the ability to understand that. Maybe at some point it will, but right now, that's something to be very conscientious of. The third thing is privacy, and this is a big deal for me. Most AI is owned by private companies. Think of OpenAI or Meta, who have chatbots on Instagram. I don't know how I feel sharing my information with those entities, and the very nature of therapy requires you to divulge details about yourself in a vulnerable way. I mean, that's the only way it's effective. And companies like Meta want nothing more than to have access to that because they want to build a profile on you, to personalize ads, things like that. I know not everyone cares about these sorts of things or thinks they're a big deal, but for those who are conscious about it, as soon as you implement a technology that is able to record all of that data in mass because you're literally typing it in, that becomes a potential concern. Do I think AI will replace therapists totally? Probably not. No, at least not for a very long time. And I think that in some ways AI has actually made the human element more valuable. I don't remember if I talked about this in another video, but it's the same deal with art, right? Like you could have AI generated art that looks cool on the outside, on the surface, but then when you know something has been made by a person, suddenly it seems so much more special, at least in my eyes. So in a weird kind of ironic way, I think that AI has actually made humans more interesting because we have something to contrast them with. So anyways, that's all I have for today. If you want to hang out, I go live on Twitch every once in a while. If you want to check that schedule, I usually update it on our Discord. I'll have both of those linked down below. I also have an email that someone asked for and still no one has sent an email to it. So if you want to be the first, you can. And I think I'm forgetting something else. Yes, we have a Patreon. I'll link that as well. I guess that's mainly behind the scenes stuff as far as what's going on in my life, aside from the things that I share here on YouTube. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.